Well, hey guys, how is everybody? Welcome back to Not Your College Life with Lisa Beals. I'm your host, Lisa Beals. I am the mom that's here to help the other mom with all of the hoops and headaches that come with college life today that did not exist in college life for us. So today I have for you academic and emotional support plan as we are thinking about heading into the summer and fall for those that decide that their students will benefit from starting in the summer, whether it's virtually, remotely, or on campus, and those that are choosing to go to campus this fall. So sit back and take some notes. And if you can't take notes, then save this podcast, or better yet, go subscribe to my email list and I will connect you to my private Pinterest board that has a lot of this information already curated for you. Yeah, so I'm going to save you the research. Okay? All right, so let's jump on in, shall we? So first, I want to say, whether your student is choosing to physically go to campus or not is a very personal decision. There are a number of factors that you're going to have to consider, including your and your students' emotional well-being, right? So whether they are perfectly healthy and have no underlying conditions, if you or your student are going to go crazy with worry and anxiety about exposure and what all the what ifs that could happen, seriously consider whether actually going to campus this fall is in everyone's best interest. You guys know yourselves better than I do, and you really need to assess this together as a family. Having your student on campus with you texting and calling and emailing because you're obsessing about their safety and their health is going to be nothing but a distraction to your student and their success. So you guys really first need to have a heart-to-heart conversation and really assess, is it something that you guys can reasonably figure out the pros and cons and the risk assessment to determine if physically going to campus is in everyone's best interest. So once you guys decide that, this podcast will dig in now to support systems that you need to have in place, both for emotional and academic support. So I'm going to start with the emotional support first. And that includes the mental health, emotional health. So if you are sending your student has decided they want to go to campus, if they already have a diagnosis of some mental health issue, whether it's OCD, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, if they already have a chronic mental health issue that could be exacerbated with everything that comes with a pandemic, right? That list is limitless. Then I want you to make sure that you have a referral from your student's current healthcare provider that knows them, that has treated them. I want you to get a referral for a provider on campus or nearby campus. If your student's provider can provide telehealth benefits, no matter where your student is going to college, that's a bonus. Get that figured out now and get it set up. The continuity of care with me interacting with someone who I already have a relationship with, who I already trust, who already knows me, is significantly going to improve your students' resilience and ability to handle crisis, or to even continue with their regular treatment regime regardless of where they're at. So if telehealth is not an option with the current healthcare provider, then you'd certainly want to get a referral and get a visit scheduled and get them established before the semester begins. before summer, if they're starting in summer, before fall, if they're starting in fall. You want them to be established before the need arises. I want you to have a plan with your student on how they get to their visits if they are not doing telehealth. Is it an Uber? Is it a bus ride? Is it a bike? Is it walking? How are they going to get there? Do they know how to get there? Do they have means to get there? Figure that out together. If they are taking medication, I want you to figure out how do you get a refill if they run out. I want you to determine what is a safe storage process for their meds in campus housing. Do you need a locker? Do you need a safe box? Depending on what kind of medication it is, it could be abused. So to ensure that their medication is secure and responsibly stored is very important. So figure that out. I will actually link in my Pinterest board some safe storage methods for medication in the dorm room. Whether that's a key or a padlock, that's for you and your student to figure out what the best method is. And then you and your student should talk together about who else on campus needs to know about their personal healthcare status. And what I mean by that is who else needs to serve as mom away from home, so that if you have a concern or if your student has a concern and they don't want to worry you, there's a resource, an individual on campus that knows what their history is and can either be a resource to them to reach out and share their concerns with without having to worry you, because we all know students don't want to worry their parents. Who can that be? And who can you reach out to that could physically lay eyes on your student if you have worries based on your mama intuition? I can't tell you how much as an administrator I have valued the fact that a student has looped in another trusted adult who already knows that they are prone to anxiety or depression, and that person knows how to reach out to them. That person knows what behaviors are typical or atypical as a signal that someone needs to reach out and check on them. Because sometimes that spiral, if it's depression and anxiety, sometimes that spiral is tough to recognize it in yourself when you're suffering until you have already spun out of control, and then things seem overwhelming and too much to handle. So to have someone give you that reality check and recognize that in you and reach out is crucial, in my opinion. I am going to also suggest that you and your student reach out to whatever ADA disability services are available on campus and talk about what that chronic condition is, whether it's OCD or anxiety or depression, and how that could affect your studies should a flare-up occur, right? Do you need the opportunity for an alternate test because maybe something happened and you woke up the day of an exam and you are out of control and there's no way you could focus on the exam? Without having that accommodation already in place, your student does not have anything in their court other than the grace of a faculty member to provide accommodations. And when you're a faculty member teaching 2 to 5 courses a semester, the idea that you have to create another alternate exam to mitigate cheating in answer sharing is quite daunting, especially in this season of COVID, because they are feeling as overwhelmed as your student is in ensuring that there are enough resources online. They have a backup in case they get sick or a family member gets sick and they have to provide care. So having a plan already in place because you have a documented disability is key. I would also encourage you, when you guys are talking to the accommodations office, what is the plan if your student gets COVID and is down for the count for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks? What accommodations can they put in place for your student? You need to talk about incompletes and what does that mean? Because an incomplete means that they're going to finish that work outside of the current semester, but when? Right? You're going to have winter break, you're going to have spring semester, there's going to be a whole nother course load in the spring. You guys really need to assess together, what is the plan if your student gets COVID during the semester? And depending on what time of the semester they get it, come up with contingency plans. Are they incomplete? Do you withdraw from some but not all? You need to have a conversation with the ADA office on what you can reasonably expect for support and advocacy for your student if they should get sick with an illness that's going to take them down for potentially a third of the semester, a fourth of the semester. Also, on emotional support is a self-care plan. What is your student's routine and how can they continue that routine on campus? Do they listen to podcasts? Do they journal? Do they need a faith outlet? Connect with something there. Your services might be from home, they might be streamed, so your student could still connect with your faith-based services even while in school. What kind of physical exercise does your student need, and how can they get that on campus? Is it biking? Is it skating? Is it swimming? And where can they get that while on campus, regardless of outbreak or not? Self-care also includes connecting to people. And I think now more than ever, we've realized that if you're watching me on YouTube, there's something next level about interacting with someone when you can see them. I know from my personal experience that my staff or myself tend to get more aggressive or short-tempered customers on the other end of email because it's easy, right? You're just a faceless, nameless person. The occurrence of someone being hostile or disrespectful on the phone is a little bit less because you have a voice now. And then the level of hostility with a face-to-face mitigates even further. I have not studied this. I have seen examples of it. When I host meetings on campus, I intentionally bring, when I have large meetings with my campus partners, I do monthly campus partner meetings, and there's a couple hundred that will come. I intentionally bring a different staff member to those meetings, bring them up to the front and introduce them. I don't make them say anything because I don't want to make them uncomfortable, but putting a face and a human being behind that name, behind that email, behind that phone call brings humanness to them, and it makes it a little bit harder for individuals in the room to show hostility to them. If you guys know the science behind it, I would be really interested in it. But I've seen it, so I believe in it. So FaceTime, have your student ensure that they are connecting visually with the people in their life that give them joy, that encourage them, that are their people, right? Encourage your student to come up with a plan and investigate this summer what student organizations they may want to test drive. And those student organizations, student life resources are going to look different this fall. They may still look different in the spring. But how exciting that your student could potentially help reshape what student life and student organizations do to engage students in their emotional, academic, and physical health. Most campuses have really healthy and diverse student organizations to get involved in, anywhere from crafting and knitting to physical to political. There is a gamut. Have them identify 3 to 5 things that they are willing to at least test drive this fall, and let me know how that turns out. I'm really curious which connections that they found most powerful. Okay, and then the last thing on emotional care, emotional support, is talk now about what their plan is when things go sideways. So how will they cope if you get a diagnosis at home of COVID? Do you need them to come home? Or can they stay at school and focus? Decide now on how much you're going to share with them and let them know why. Are you willing to be completely open and honest and transparent, or will you keep some things private? And I want you to agree on that. Don't intentionally hide things from your student thinking that you're going to protect them. I think if nothing, we as parents learn the hard way that our students are pretty intuitive, and our kiddos can sense when we're hiding something. I know personally when my girls were 3 and 6 and we got a really devastating diagnosis for their baby brother, my husband and I didn't know how to have a conversation about it wasn't terminal, but it was a diagnosis that most kids don't see beyond age 3 to 6. So I didn't know how to have that conversation with a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So it was, your brother is special, and we just need to take special care of him, yada, yada, yada. These girls, when I went through, and this is so funny because of where your focus is, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but when my girls graduated high school, and I remember going through all of the papers that I kept from K through 12, and I was preparing for their high school open house. I was thrown on my backside when I found essays and artwork where they referenced their little brother and how there was something terribly wrong with him, and that they thought he was going to die, and that they couldn't tell mommy and daddy because they had to be strong and not let on that they knew or were worried about their brother. Talk about a punch in the gut. And how presumptuous was that of me to think that I was going to hide something anything of such magnitude from these kids that lived in the same household with us. So I'm telling you, you can think you're going to hide something from them for their own good, but kids are smart. Now, you might be able to hide it a little bit easier if they're not going to be in the same home and if you're not checking in with them regularly. But I'm here to tell you, they're going to figure it out. The grapevine, social media, you can't hide much today. So I want you guys to talk honestly about when there's diagnosis at home, how do you guys want to share that so that your student is not derailed? How will they manage a diagnosis with a roommate or a classmate and how that might affect them? How will they manage if they're required to quarantine? What will that affect with their own self-care tactics and academic support? How will they manage if they get the virus? What is the plan? What if they get really sick and are down for the count for 3 to 4 to 5 weeks? What's going to be your response? Because what if you can't bring them home? They've got to self-quarantine there because it's not safe for you to send them home, airplane, bus, whatever, or bring them into your home and expose others. So talk through your contingency plans for those scenarios. And while we're on the topic, let me just say, those are good conversations to have, even without coronavirus, because life is messy, and y'all, we could get a really devastating diagnosis unrelated to COVID at any point. And this is coming from your Pollyanna friend who chooses to live life with the rose-colored glasses on, life is hard, life is messy. That's just part of the human experience. So to be responsible and have a conversation with them, let's talk about the what if scenarios. We don't have to dwell on them, but let's just talk, what might that look like if something like this happened at home? If something like that happened here? How would you together come up with a plan? Okay? All right, so that was emotional support. Moving on to academic support. So one of them, of course, is the Disability Center, the ADA office. That helps not only level the playing field, but provide access to those that need access. This is where you've got to put your pride aside and raise your hand and say, I need help, and how can you get that to me? Because to say you don't want to go to school with a label is doing yourself, your student, a disservice. College is academically more rigorous. And to think that you're going to send your student into a more rigorous setting than high school, new environment, new friends, new support system, new living arrangement, all the new, and you're not going to ensure that they have support services set up, friend, I'm telling you, that is a major faux pas, and shame on you and shame on your student. I've seen it too much. Don't do it. Here's what I want you to make sure you know in case you don't. I'm going to say it. I think everybody knows it, but just in case you don't. K through 12, your educational plan, EAP, is that it? I can't remember. It's been so long. Your plan was shared widely with your educational support team, with your principal, with your teachers, with your counselors. All of the people knew. There was no secrets. This is what you need. This is why you need it, yada, yada, yada. You went through life with a label. Your kiddos did. They don't want that label. They don't want that shadow over them in college. They won't have it unless they disclose it. Okay? I want to make sure people hear that. When you go to college, there is not the same level of required disclosure. Your student will choose who to disclose to. So if you go to the support center and you say, I have X, Y, and Z, what can you do to help ensure that a flare-up or whatever is not going to impede my academic success? Those accommodation letters are sent to the faculty. Those letters only disclose what accommodation the faculty has to afford your student, not why, not diagnosis. So it could be they need a longer testing period. That longer testing period could be because your student is blind and they need someone to read the test questions to them so that they can then type out the answers. Your student could be hard of hearing and they need someone to sign them. They could have ADHD and need a longer test period so that they can get their medication up to par so they can sit through an exam. There is a myriad of reasons on why you might need a longer test period. The faculty will never know unless your student tells them. So the thought that a label is going to follow them through college is a false one. That label follows them only if they choose to put that label on their forehead and tell it to people. Okay, off the soapbox. All right, so tutoring. If your student struggles with any subject, Google will be your friend. Look on the parent page, put a post, have your student do some searching as well for boards, Reddit threads, whatever. Who is a good tutor for XYZ subject because they know they're going to struggle already? Is there supplemental instruction sessions, tutoring sessions that the university already offers because they know and recognize that a certain subject already has a high DW or F rate? What's a DWF rate? That's jargon in the university systems for high number of grades that are Ds, that are Ws, that are Fs. So I think that's even part of a tenure track parameter where the university actually monitors how many D's, W's, and F's are earned in a course, and they look closely at that data and decide, does this course need revamped? Does it need additional support services? Is it meeting the needs of our student and the curriculum? So be on the lookout for Reddit threads, supplemental instructions on those courses that already have precursors for students struggling. Look for academic success centers on campus. There is a movement over the last 5 years or so where colleges are really focused on the academic success of students and are funding support services to that end with coaches and free services for coaching and time management skills and study skills and note-taking skills. I'll link to a few of the resources that I've identified with a couple of the Big Ten universities just to kind of wet your whistle on to see what potentially could be out there. I would also say that if your student is part of a minority group, so first gen, low income, racial minority, that already demonstrates statistically lower than average, I'm using air quotes, lower than average success and graduation rates, put your pride aside and take advantage. These programs are federally are funded for a reason. The statistics show these groups do not succeed at the same proportion as non-minority students do. So put your student at the best advantage by utilizing any resources that are available for your student. If they're first gen, if they're low income, if they're a minority, take advantage. Academic support could come in a summer bridge program if your student is willing to entertain the idea. A lot of studies show that students, new beginners, tend to progress better at higher rates when they start in the summer. I'm a believer in this. I pushed my older daughter into a summer program. The two women, young ladies that she met in that are still friends of hers today. She will say academically she doesn't think it made a difference. I don't know if it did because she's not a first gen, she's not a minority. But the connections that you're able to make in a smaller setting could make a difference, right? The idea that you could find potentially your people in a summer bridge program, that you could acclimate yourself to the campus before another 40,000 people descend on the campus is helpful. Okay, so there you go. I have shared with you, I really went a lot deeper on the emotional support, didn't I, than the academic support. But I think it's really important not to gloss over the fact and the impact that your emotional health has on your students' ability to perform academically. So, yeah, there you go. If you guys have any questions about anything that I've covered that I did not get into deep enough for you, please don't hesitate to send me an email or reach out to me on social media. I'm at Not Your College Life with Lisa Beals on both Facebook and Instagram. Please come follow me. I look forward to engaging with you on those platforms. And if you don't want to miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to my podcast on whatever platform that you're watching on, listening on, whether it's on my YouTube channel or if you're following on my personal webpage at lisabeals.com. And I appreciate you so much. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.